Nobody knows her name. On the morning of November 29th, 1970, a father hiking with his two young daughters in the mountains outside Bergen, Norway, found a body, a woman, burned beyond recognition, lying on her back in a remote valley locals had long called Dødsdalen, Death Valley. Police arrived. Investigators arrived. Interpol was contacted. Sketches circulated across Europe. For months, authorities searched for anyone who could answer one simple question. Who was she? More than 50 years later, nobody has answered it. What investigators did find, the 8 fake passports, the wigs, the surveillance, the secret codes, the cash hidden in her luggage, the movements that tracked perfectly with classified military testing sites, raised a question far darker than identity. Was she running from someone or working for them? Section 1. The woman who arrived from nowhere. The last confirmed sighting of the Isdal woman alive was November 23, 1970, 6 days before her body was found. She checked out of room 407 at the Hotel Hordeheimen in Bergen. She paid in cash, she asked for a taxi, then she disappeared. Hotel staff described her as well-dressed, quietly spoken, roughly 5 feet 4 inches tall, with dark brown hair and careful, watchful eyes. She kept almost entirely to her room. She seemed, staff noted, permanently on guard. 3 days after the body was discovered, investigators found 2 suitcases at Bergen railway station, abandoned, waiting as if she had planned to return for them and never made it back. Inside, wigs, multiple sets of clothing, makeup, maps, train timetables, foreign currency from 3 different countries, and a notepad written in a personal code. Every single label from every piece of clothing, every item, every document had been deliberately cut out or rubbed off. Someone had removed all identifying information before she died, or someone had done it after. Police decoded the notepad. It turned out to be a travel diary. Dates and locations of cities she had visited across Norway and Europe. Cross-referencing her handwritten hotel check-in forms, investigators traced at least 8 separate fake identities she had used. All claimed Belgian nationality. All gave addresses that, when checked, turned out not to exist. Current profile, her real name, unknown. Her nationality, unknown. Her employer, unknown. Her reason for being in Norway, unknown. Languages spoken, German, French, Flemish, broken English. Estimated birth year, around 1930. Estimated birthplace, southern Germany or French-German border region. Cause of death, sleeping pills and carbon monoxide poisoning. Section 2, 8 passports and a secret route. 8 fake passports. That is not the behavior of a tourist or even a criminal running from the law. 8 passports, 8 constructed identities, 8 sets of false addresses. All of this requires resources, planning, and the kind of infrastructure that individuals rarely build alone. And her route through Norway was not random. When investigators laid out every confirmed location she had visited, Oslo, Trondheim, Stavanger, Bergen, and compared them against classified Norwegian military records, something emerged that no one could easily explain. Her movements tracked almost precisely with the secret testing locations of the Penguin missile, one of Norway's most sensitive military programs of the Cold War era. A fisherman reported seeing her near the missile testing area in Stavanger. A shoe salesman confirmed she had been there. Her presence at these locations and the timing of her visits appeared to be no accident. The Cold War context, Norway, in 1970, was a NATO member sharing a border with the Soviet Union. Foreign intelligence operatives from both sides were active throughout the country. Several unexplained disappearances near Norwegian military sites in the 1960s had already been traced back to international espionage. Then there was what a witness reported in 2005, 35 years after the fact. A Bergen resident said that 5 days before the body was found, he had passed a woman on a hillside trail who matched the Isdal woman exactly. She was dressed for the city, not a hike. 2 men in coats were walking behind her, close behind her, watching her. The woman looked at the hiker as if she wanted to say something. She didn't. He went to the police. They told him to forget about it. His name was never recorded. Nobody told him why. Section 3. Suicide or something else. The official verdict was suicide. The Isdal woman, police concluded, had walked into Death Valley, swallowed between 50 and 70 sleeping pills, and set herself on fire. The autopsy told a more complicated story. Soot was found deep in her lungs, meaning she was still alive, still breathing, as the fire burned around her. Her neck showed bruising, consistent with either a fall or a deliberate blow. Her clenched hands were raised against her chest, a posture pathologists noted was unusual for a poisoning death. And in 1991, something quietly surfaced. A taxi driver, anonymous, unwilling to give a name, came forward and said that when he had picked up the Isdal woman from her hotel on November 23rd, a man had joined them for the ride to the train station. A man no one had ever looked for. A man whose name was never recorded because no one had thought to ask. The theories: if it was suicide, she chose a remote valley. She brought sleeping pills. She removed all her identification herself. She wanted to disappear without a trace and nearly succeeded. If it was murder, someone removed her identification to protect themselves. The 2 men on the hillside were following her. The anonymous taxi passenger was the last person to see her alive, and someone made sure the police never looked too closely. In 2017, forensic analysis of her teeth finally gave investigators something concrete. She was likely born around 1930 near Nuremberg, Germany, possibly raised in French-speaking Belgium. She was a real person. She had a real life before the wigs, the fake passports, the coded notebooks. In 2019, a man in France came forward claiming he'd been in a relationship with her in the summer of 1970, just months before her death. He described a woman who refused to share any personal details, received scheduled phone calls from unknown numbers, owned multiple wigs, and dressed deliberately to look younger than she was. He had suspected she was a spy. He had been too afraid to go to the authorities. She is buried in an unmarked grave in Bergen. The zinc coffin was chosen specifically so her remains could be exhumed in case someone ever came forward to claim her. More than 50 years later, no one has. Her DNA has been analyzed, her teeth have been studied, podcasts, documentaries, and international investigations have been launched in her name. The Norwegian government reopened the case in 2016, and still no name, no family, no answers. Just a woman in a valley that locals called Death Valley, and the 2 men in coats who were walking just a few steps behind her. If stories like this keep you up at night, the cold cases, the unanswered questions, the people history forgot, subscribe and drop your theory in the comments. Who was the Isdal woman?